how's everybody doing? Thanks for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm really honored to be here. And I want to talk about Bitcoin, of course. This is going to be part of the quick market update series on my YouTube channel, Cheds Trading. I try to stream at least once a week. I want you folks to know what my thoughts are. I'm very active, pardon me, of course, on Twitter, at Big Cheds. And I like to take the opportunity to stream when I can. It's about once a week, just to expand upon my thoughts and give you folks an opportunity to ask me questions here in the chat room, and you can kind of know where I'm at. I do save my long form analysis for Bitcoin Live, where I'm a founding analyst. I do a twice a week full market report there. You definitely want to check out Bitcoin Live, and I want to remind you that, by the way, I published 4 books. And I'm making them free on my YouTube channel and the various, playlists. I just published a video for trading quotes. I got the trading wisdom playlist. I'm making trading wisdom free in the trading encyclopedia. My battles with cancer is free, and the trading journal I'm making free as well in the trading encyclopedia playlist, which is my new pet project. I have hundreds of videos here for you now, new ones every day, 3-minute videos. Designed to teach you professional TA. I have studied TA professionally, classical charting, Japanese candlestick theory, and I really just try to make it a little bit easier for you to learn and to take complicated topics. Check this playlist out. Whatever you're looking for, you'll see it here. I will refer to it in today's stream when I'll be, different topics will come up. I'll refer to this. And just to remind you, if you're looking for somewhere to trade, my favorite exchange is BingX, and I've worked with them for like 5 or 6 years. They're a great group of folks. So what do we want to do? We've got Bitcoin, of course. As usual, what I want to do is I'll kind of riff on the chart and tell you my thoughts, and then I'll get into the chat room. And so you can prepare questions. I'll try to get to everybody. I'll do my best. Then I've got a whole bunch of tweets lined up to kind of walk through the progression of how we got here, maybe kind of update us from the last stream from a week ago. So what's up, Satoshi Chocolate, Zolan, Gold, Influence Manual, everybody lining up here in the chat room, getting ready to let me know your thoughts and questions, get those ready. Great to see everybody there. Let's see. What is the first tweet I want to talk about? So this is, okay, so the 4-hour gravestone dojis, but how did we get there? So let's start out with that. So the weekly chart has rolled over, and we've talked a lot about the loss of the weekly MA50, the inability of the price to hold in a throwback, which is a bullish retest. What is a throwback? Throwback is when you have a level that you break. Hopefully it's well-defined. You break it, you come back. Should be support from above. I have a video on that in the Trading Encyclopedia. So failed throwback, re-entering the price range, and in my view, pushing towards range lows, 76K. You don't get there in a straight line, right? You normally will not do that. There's going to be some consolidation along the way. First close below the weekly 50, second close below the weekly 50. So we're in the beginnings of a bear market. We're definitely consolidating. The top is in, and it's just going to be a question of where the low of the cycle is going to be. 55K, somewhere in here, maybe somewhere in this range. And that's just a deep drop. And I outlined my thesis on that, on my YouTube channel and my Twitter page. Yesterday I put out a quick clip. You can get into that. But in the meantime, there's going to be a lot of opportunities, and we're still marking up the chart, and we're looking to see, like I said, trading opportunities. So I'll talk you through some of those. But in the meantime, the first major target, again, is going to be right around 76K, right? The bottom of this range, because, as I said, failed throwback. When you re-enter a price range, you have the potential to test the entire range. And this is a failed throwback on the inverted head and shoulders continuation, loss of MA50, yada, yada, yada. So where are we at now, though? So from the last update, which was about a week ago when I did my last YouTube stream, let's go to the daily chart. And what happened was, so what is today? Today's Tuesday. My last update was here as well. So it was after this hammer candle. What I talked about was the idea that a lot of people are anticipating a bounce into a lower high somewhere. And why would it be a lower high? Well, we're in a downward channel. Here's our high. Here's our lower high, lower high. A series of continued lower highs, low, lower low. So we got the lower high, and I was anticipating it, and here's the lower high. All right, so let's walk through that. So we had the hammer candle I thought I pulled up the tweet here. So flexing hammer candle on daily with most volume since December 2024, and EMA 8 above 90K. So that was here, okay? And what I was letting you know is hammer candle is a short-term reversal candle. It's in the right place. It's the lower Bollinger Band. It's got volume on it. And your first target is going to be EMA 8, of course, primary downtrend resistance. You can go to the Trading Encyclopedia and look for what are my moving averages. It explains that, EMA, SMA, to give you a good sense of why I use that. And I've used that for many years. But it's just an exponential moving average versus a simple exponential moving average means that, hey, Martwan, exponential means it's more price weighting to the most recent candle. And so we had a bounce into underside here, brief pause, and then a continuation, a little bit of continuation, a little bit of low time frame continuation. But first, after the hammer, we had this here. So here's the first tweet. 4-hour gravestone doji pin bar. What's a pin bar? A pin bar is really any lower shadow or upper shadow candle. Like I have a video on pin bars, of course. If you go to the Trading Encyclopedia, pin bar right here. So if you think of like a shooting star is a bearish pin bar, a hammer is a bullish pin bar, dragonfly doji, but it doesn't have to be this exact construction. It can be like a weird looking body with any kind of a long lower shadow, even some upper shadow, but a predominantly lower shadow candle is a bullish pin bar, and the opposite in the inverse. Regardless, let's get rid of this tweet and we'll go through one at a time. So 4-hour gravestone doji at the upper Bollinger Band. So basically an advance. This is a 4-hour advance in a corrective state, and said, okay, it's going to pause a little bit. Let's kind of see what happens. And so just a little bit of a pause. Drop back to around 86K. Some caution warranted, okay? And let's continue on. Now, have the brief reset, and here we go. 4-hour is trying again. After the brief reset, trying to break through. Okay, let's mark that up. People are popping off in the chat room. Great to see you, folks. So then, right there, we get the test, and we're testing the peak of the doji. All right, what happens after that? And then it continued in a rally. So we broke through and continued. Now, at this point, I'm still on watch for a lower high. I've been talking about it at Bitcoin Live. I've been talking about it on Twitter. Is that on the daily chart, I'm still anticipating a lower high in here somewhere. And we observed that the price had previously failed at the SMA 20, the middle Bollinger Band. SMA meaning simple moving average, right? It's equally weighted. A lot of great questions. I'll get to them in a second, guys. I'll take a look at Hype Zhao, no problem. And somebody asked for Beyond Meat. I'll take a look at that. We'll look at MicroStrategy. We'll look at a bunch of stuff. But you see the price had paused at the MA20. So we're looking to see how it interacts with the MA20, and then boom, spinning top, right? The spinning top, this indecision candle after an advance into resistance, SMA 20, and we're observing rally into DMA 20. DMA means daily MA, so this means daily. And if you don't specify whether it's SMA or EMA, it's a default is SMA or simple moving average. If it's an exponential, you would specify with EMA. So DMA, MA25, MA20 underside rejection. Now we watch for a higher low. So why do we do that? What does that make sense? Right? You set our low, we set our high. Now I'm looking for the higher low. Looks like we have it, and I'll talk about that. But the reason you look for that, it's just momentum. It's consolidation. It's dropping. High time frame, it's in a falling channel. But you get a quick drop, you set a low, you set a lower high, and then you'd usually do something like this, like a tightening range. That would be a bear pennant, likely to continue lower, right? But it's just an equilibrium, beginning of an equilibrium, or a tightening range, right? And so we set it here. I said, now we watch for a higher low, all right? So let's continue on. And then we get and then we got this, and then I observed something quite interesting. All right, so this is after we set the lower high, right here. It was dropping in the 4-hour. I'm watching it. I'm kind of checking things out. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Okay, yeah, a little bit of an up thrust here, right? Little bit, right? A little bit of an LTF up thrust, right? You see that structure kind of stalling, and we get these Bollingers that are really tight. Bollinger Bands. Basically, Bollinger Bands, it calculates volatility in relation to its own historic volatility. And it's got the 20-day look back, and it uses like the upper and lower Bollinger Bands, 2 standard deviations of the volatility from the mean, the MA20, the middle Bollinger. So when it gets really tight, the bottom line is when it gets really tight like this, you want to be on watch for some volatility. And I put out a tweet, and it basically said it's the tightest 4H band since, late September. And I just visually saw that it was super tight. You can always, of course, go to indicators. You can go to technicals, and then you go to Bollinger Band width, and then you kind of pull it up, and you say, okay, it's really low here, and you scroll over, okay, lowest since September. And that's essentially what I did. I just saw it, and it's telling you to stay on watch. And we had a pretty big drop after that. So we set the lower high. We see the Bollinger pinch, and then boom, and we're going to deep cut, 4H deep cut, red Maribozu here. Pretty much Maribozu means shaven top, but really no shadow, full red candle. We get the Maribozu. I'm going to get through all these tweets, and then I'll take your questions. Deep cut off that pinch, all right? I do not want to ask Grok to explain my own post. That's kind of annoying. And then, all right, so we talked, we walked through. Okay, we walked through this. We saw the hammer candle. We're looking for lower high. We got the lower high. Price is dropping, and I'm now watching for a higher low somewhere. Why? Because it's a consolidation. I'm expecting it. And here we go. BTC, 85.5. And I said, look, possible higher low in progress? If so, we'd watch for a lower high in tightening range. So that means that means a lower high from here. And maybe that's happening right now, but here's our higher low. Hopefully this is not confusing you folks too much. I literally try to make these videos to clean, explain it all for you. I have a video on the equilibrium, which is what we're looking at right now, the tightening range. So if you look for equilibrium right there, equilibrium, video 92 ranked by, this is ranked by popularity. Video 92 equilibrium, so we're discussing the tightening range. And so I'm saying this is probably a low here. It just made sense to have a slightly higher low because my thinking was, and I talked about this in Bitcoin Live Sunday night, it was unlikely to punch right through this shadow, right? This is a pretty strong hammer candle. We got our bounce. I expected bulls to defend this hammer candle. And when we had this 4-hour price action, thanks, Luis. Luis says, nice to watch you live. Thanks, Luis. I'm enjoying my day. You too, brother. And I'll get to your questions, Matej. And I'll get to your other questions, everybody. We'll talk about Ethereum. So, with this quick drop on that pinch, it made sense to look for a higher low here in relation to the hammer candle, and we got it. So here's me saying, look, higher low in progress, 85K, right? It's a pretty nice little call there. Nice follow through. We bounced from that. All right. We look for a tightening range. Bulls defended. And I basically said here, I put out the thing, and I basically, about an hour later, I said a pretty good chance that Bitcoin makes a small bounce here, meaning like not the bottom, but a bounce. I don't expect bulls to give up the hammer candle range so easily. It's exactly what happened. Bulls defended. We got a nice little bounce. Okay. All right. So that's Ethereum. So that's kind of what we got to. And so what is next on Bitcoin? Well, we're in a tightening range here. We have our low. We have our lower high, we have our higher low, and probably stalls somewhere in here. I mean, looking at 4-hour structure, I don't think it's going to punch right through here. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if I've been wrong many times, and maybe I'll be wrong here. I just don't see it punching through here. We've had a very nice snap back, a very nice bounce against the broader trend. We see the trend here. By the way, the trend is the 200 moving average in classical chart, and you can see it here. This is a move against the trend into resistance, probably will stall here, and this is a likely spot for a lower high, okay? I'll cover what happens if I'm wrong. But if this is a lower high, we have our tightening range. So let's see how this resolves, right? Right? Be patient, let it resolve. It probably goes lower because we're in a corrective state. I do think it's very likely we're at 76K in the next, week or two. It just makes a lot of sense to me. And what I talked about in previous videos, my bear thesis would start to become wrong if we recapture 99K. 99.5 and get back up into this range. And then really, like long-term, high time frame, I'm definitely wrong if we're back above 107.5. So if we start to get a couple, like a weekly close or two above 107.5, then the idea of the high time frame trend rolling over is probably wrong. And so I'm watching for those two things, but these seem like underdog scenarios to me for now, just based on momentum. So hopefully I showed you folks a little something about what my thinking is in terms of how I'm marking up these moves, in terms of why it made sense to bounce here, why it made sense to pause here, why it made sense to pause here, why it made sense to bounce here, and kind of, I think why it probably will pause here as well. We'll see. But that's just kind of my thinking. You see how I walk through this. And again, I'm trying to teach you all these tools in the Trading Encyclopedia. Volume during consolidation. This is a great video. Very few people have watched it. Hopefully you folks are enjoying that. Let me go through the chat, and then I'll get to, I have some other tweets like Ethereum and Zcash and other stuff I wanted to talk about. Let's see. What is happening? So the first person wanted to know about hype. Mr. Ben wanted to know about hype. Let's take a look at hype. What is going on here? Yeah, chart's in trouble for sure. Okay. Trend is rolling over, and look at that most recent rejection on the underside of lost support. You understand the principle of polarity, which means that, lost support becomes resistance and vice versa. You're in a downward channel, series of lower highs. I'd be very careful, certainly until it can recapture like 36.5 or 37. I would not want to be long here. It is mirroring a little bit of the tightening range we're seeing in Bitcoin, but it kind of just makes sense. It's probably going around 25. Just my sense on this. It's going to be around here at some point in the near future. Just my read of the chart. So that's just my sense on there for hype. Let me see what else. We talked about coffee. Everybody's drinking coffee. Zolan says, I can't believe I made it live. You made it, brother. The most educational hour of the week. You're welcome, Arjeet. I don't know if we'll go an hour. We'll see, brother. Okay, Satoshi, are you 100% in the bear side confirmed? Yeah, I'm pretty much, yeah. I mean, the trend's rolled over, and I mean, the trend's definitely rolled over. I mean, it failed to hold at 107.5, where we lost the weekly 50. I mean, the top's like 95% in my opinion, right? I mean, whatever. I can be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I'm not shorting Bitcoin. I don't short Bitcoin. I just reduce my long exposure, and I wait for other opportunities. I short altcoins. Actually, I love shorting altcoins. I'm holding like 10 shorts right now in altcoins that I've already taken 50% profit on. I'm just riding. But I'm not going to short Bitcoin, and so I hope I'm wrong. But it just, to me, the best read is that the top is in. I looked at Hype Zhao. Let's see. Hey, man. Hey, Chocolate. If we break 92K here and hold that, is that a long trigger 96? So let's explore that, right? You can identify this structure here and say, looking at the 4 hour, hold on one second. All right, so if you're looking at the local structure here and, looking at 92K, you can identify that as being where the price had most recently paused, okay? So then, therefore, can you take a long and a break of this structure? Sure, any type of a reasonably well-defined range, once you flip it, you can use it for a thesis and then define it. That's your stop loss, right? If it breaks, you said 92K, your stop loss would be maybe 91.5, sure, quite reasonable. So yeah, absolutely. Chocolate, that's a good way to look at it. Mateus, you think we're going lower right away, no bounce to 100K first? I don't think we're going to bounce to 100K. I just think there's too much bear pressure. There's too much unwind. But, I mean, here's the thing. It's much easier to forecast a weekly trend vis-a-vis, the Bitcoin's probably going to 55K at least, right? It's probably going, at least the low of this range, right? At some point or another, in the near, whatever, a few months maybe, or something like that, 3-6 months. But it's much harder to, it's much harder to pin down because it's just turned. It's much harder to pin down the exact structure of what it's going to do because you know it's lower high. We've got that already. You know it's going to consolidate, probably test here, maybe bounce from there. I don't know. I just don't think we get all the way back up to 100. It seems like there's too much bear pressure, right? A lot of people are expecting the bounce into the lower, into that level. I mean, I'm watching for it. I don't know. It makes sense for me to see it stall here and continue down. Maybe test that hammer candle again. We'll see. We'll see. I think probably not, but it's not, to say, when I say that I don't think it's going 99K, that's not as strong as when I say the top's in. Like, you're pretty sure the top's in. Here, I'd say like 70% likely that it will not go to, it will not go to 99K, right? So that's, that's a pretty good bet. It's not everything, but that's like, I don't know, that's like, what is that? Like ace king suited versus ace 10, I think is like 70%, something like that. It's a pretty good bet, okay? All right, let's see. What's next for Ethereum? Let's talk about that, and then we'll get to the rest of the chat room. So I'm kind of catching up. Let's talk about what's the rest for Ethereum. So here's a observation I made on Ethereum. And so here on November 28th, so we're bouncing into, so the tweet says, bouncing into 30.50, DMA 20 underside with RSI hidden bear divergence. So this is me giving you folks like, hey, there's a short setup here, right? Pay attention. And so why is it a short setup? Well, it's in a corrective phase. On Ethereum. It was here, so we're bouncing here. So this tweet came right here. We have a bounce into lost support, and then we just saw there's a little bit of bear divergence. You note the higher highs in RSI. It's a hidden bearish divergence. Essentially, if it makes sense intuitively because like the RSI is already getting hotter. But the price isn't matching it, right? Like you'd want to essentially should match the price. You want to see any oscillator match the price, OBV, RSI. Here you just had a little bit of bear divergence, hidden continuation divergence, bounce into underside. And it's a pretty good follow through on that, right? We had a pretty good follow through on that. Note reaction and follow through in the observation. So it is just a simple technique, right? If you want to short something, wait for it to bounce. If you want to long something, wait for it to dip. And this is kind of an example of that. But okay, great, Cheds, nice call, whatever, what's next? Sure. Well, I mean, if you want to take you're going to have to wait to see if we can flip 30.50. I think that would be a reasonable long trade. Absent that, I'm still waiting for like 2,400. I've been there for weeks and weeks. I'm just waiting down here. One more leg down. So I think it's very simply put, you can wait and see if you get a local recapture. Otherwise, momentum, in my opinion, I just suggest to push towards that level, okay? Can I look at Caspa? Sure. I actually have it up here. So just had an up thrust, right? Look at that. Just had a failed break of the 06 level. Nice little short setup, actually. This is a beautiful short setup. Again, strong bounce in what is a downtrend into resistance. So, and I was actually talking to a Bitcoin Live member who took a short on this. I said, beautiful play. You target, it's a downtrend that's bounced into resistance, and then you have the up thrust. What's an up thrust? It's one of the most simple techniques. And a lot of people think about that as Wyckoff, Wyckoff accumulation or Wyckoff distribution. You don't need the whole schematic. Very simply, resistance, breakout, failed hold, and back below. And this is what you have here. Okay, it's consolidating after the fact. What do I think about it? I just don't like it. I don't like this. This is just a bad chart. I mean, look at this thing. I mean, this is just, why would I want to touch this? I don't like it. Let's go to the weekly chart and see what we think. Yeah, the weekly chart's pretty darn bad. So for any type of a longer term momentum turnaround, needs to get a back up above 10 cents. I'm just not messing with this. It's just not a good looking chart. It is a downtrend, but if you're looking to short it, if it bounces again to 6 cents, 6.061, you might want to take a look at it as a short. So this is a potential one to watch for a short and not a long. Don't like it. Martwan, do you have a video about Bollinger Bands? I actually have it on my list, and I haven't recorded it yet, which is kind of crazy. If you go to what are my moving averages, which is near the top, That's equilibrium. What are my moving average? So there's moving average. Yeah, this one explains a little bit of the Bollinger Bands, but I haven't recorded the Bollinger Band video. I'm going to do a specific video on Bollinger Band pinch, a specific video on Bollinger Band width tool, and the Bollinger Bands themselves. And I believe I also have planned a video on Bollinger Bands and Japanese candlesticks. Maybe I've formed that. Candlesticks. I don't know if I've already, so many videos of candlesticks. So I don't know that I've I've recorded the Bollinger Band video. Yeah, so I haven't recorded the Bollinger Band video, but it's coming. I actually have, I think, something like 500 different unique topics that I'm recording and planning to record. So that's coming, but it's a great question, Martwan. A couple people asked about NEAR. Let's take a look at NEAR. Here we go. I actually had it in my list. Yikes. Why are we looking at NEAR? Short on retest or long on resend? Why would you long this? Like, no. This isn't a long. You should never look at this and think, where can I long it, right? It is a nasty, nasty, nasty downtrend. If anything, look for a short on a bounce. Question is, short on a retest. Yeah, some type of a retest up here would be reasonable. Maybe even up here, if you're really lucky, you get a strong bounce back up into like 250 range. It'd be a very nice little short. This is a downtrend. This is a very, very nasty downtrend. You could even be looking to take a short right here. All right. This is an underside retest of this lost support. This is a really bad chart. So yeah, if you're looking again, when I talked about altcoins, just short them when they bounce. Most of them are really terrible charts. You know, the technology, the fundamentals, just leave that for other people to argue about. Like, you can let the price guide you, trade with the trend, take advantage of dips in uptrends. All right. Thanks for all your knowledge. You're welcome, Raphael. Hey, Zen. Hey, what's up, Saul? MicroStrategy. Let's go to MicroStrategy. I have a tweet. So it did Ethereum. Okay. And we talked about Bitcoin in detail. We'll get to Litecoin later. Zcash. Oh, I thought I had my MicroStrategy tweet. I know I can find it. Let's go back to here. Let's go to there. So I had talked about MicroStrategy. Let's find it. This will be fun. Here we go. So first I talked about, this is back in August, and I basically said MicroStrategy with a loss of momentum on daily, first sustained close below the DMA. Again, DMA means daily symbol moving average, right? It's the trend in classical charting. Last time this happened was near a top in 2021, caution warranted. So this is, me warning you on MicroStrategy around $340. Let's go ahead and take a look. I got it on this watch list. I have it on this watch list somewhere. I know I'm blind. There we go. So yeah, this is up here. I mean, the things are like $1.80. So basically got cut in half since then. So basically said we're losing the MA200, caution warranted. And then you had this like beautiful up thrust. This is just a wonderful short trigger here. This is kind of almost like what Bitcoin did in 2021. Look at this and compare it to, it's almost exactly what Bitcoin did in 2021, if you remember, right? Let's go back. Right? You see it right there. Right? Almost exactly. Like after double topping or after topping, losing the MA50, failed breakout. And this is when I, famously said, we're going to 12 to 15K, from here. So if you go back to MicroStrategy, kind of gave you something like that, just like a beautiful short setup there. If you took advantage of it, right? After it had topped out and started losing 50, get that. It was just reminds me of that. So in any case, let's go back to the tweet. And then I said, all right, but then, okay, I'm, warning you. And then we get this candle here. I mean, that's a beaut. This is a hammer candle. At the time of my tweet, it was a dragonfly doji, right? The difference between a dragonfly doji and a hammer is that the hammer's a spinning top, right? Meaning it's a small candle body. Here it's just, no body, but it was forming. There's a bullish pin bar, right? It's a bullish reversal candle after move down with volume. And we know from our studies of Japanese candlestick theory, the strength of every candlestick signal is based on the volume behind it. So here, the most volume since April and weekly throwback to 2024 structure. What does that mean? Well, you want to, of course, understand different time frames. I have a video on time frames and all that. But, even if I'm trading 4-hour daily, I want to know what the weekly's doing. And you can see on the weekly, it's doing a bullish retest of the structure. So it should find support here. It's testing what should be support on a higher time frame with the daily bullish reversal candle. And there it is. Beautiful follow through. It doesn't mean like the bottom's in, but it's a decent setup for a bounce. So that's the question. So what do we think? MicroStrategy wants 118. 118 seems pretty tight, Sam. Yeah, I mean, that's reasonable, especially if you think of it as having some correlation to Bitcoin and Bitcoin's going lower, then yeah. But this is a good setup for a short-term bottom. I don't know that this just collapses from here. I think more than likely it would kind of do something like that, like before rolling over, right? I just think this is a pause. This is a stop the bleeding type of candle, okay? Could you look at the comp chart for me? Actually, somebody had requested another one first. So let's go back here. Somebody requested Beyond Meat. I'll do that first. I want to try to get to everybody's requests as best as I can until I run out of steam. So, and you guys, this is Bitcoin Live's crypto only. Here, I'll look at whatever for you. Beyond Meat, yikes. What are we doing? This is a pretty rough looking chart. I mean, it's got volatility. Okay, it's got some volume, but I just don't like this look. I'm not sure what your question was, but I just don't like the chart. I mean, you could see a bounce here into resistance somewhere. I just don't like this chart. I don't like the look. I just would avoid this. And if I'm in it, I mean, you better pray that it holds support around 85 cents. I don't like that chart. All right. Just my honest opinion. I'm not always right. Hopefully I'm right more than hopefully I'm right 51% of the time. That's what I'm going for. So can I look at comp for you? My question about the OBV and daily. I'm pretty sure that's a crypto though. Comp USD. Oh, yeah, compound. We'll go to Coinbase. I know it has it there. So, yikes. Yeah, these are bad charts, folks. What are we doing? Setting up for a short, though, potentially. Very nice potential short setup, especially on yesterday's candle. Question is, I know it looks terrible. Okay, fair enough, Tom. My question is about the on-bounce volume in the daily. Let's take a look at the OBV. OBV is a momentum indicator. It's an index indicator rather than a bounded oscillator like the RSI. Oscillator's bounded with fixed upper and lower limit. You have a centered oscillator with like a zero line. This isn't one of them. Like MACD is centered or Chalk and Money Flow is centered, right? And this is bounded. This is unbounded, but the OBV is an unbounded oscillator. It's an index indicator. I do have a video specifically on RSI and on OBV. And then like many other ones like MACD and all that good stuff here in the encyclopedia. But your question is this. Is there any reason why the OBV has gone up all year where the price has only gone down? Well, here's what's happened. Do you see why it's gone up? This pocket of accumulation. There's all this accumulation, but these people are just underwater. It just gave it back up. So you've had this accumulation. You have these spikes of accumulation and it's just the price isn't holding. So for whatever reason, there's continued supply. The price is pushing down. There is a bullish divergence. I mean, that's pretty clear. Let's see if we can see it in the weekly to get a better view. And TradingView bugs out. You have to, like sometimes, for some reason, OBV bugs out. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a bullish divergence. There's no doubt about it, right? Certainly from this local low. But if I kind of go back, you could say that it still generally matches the trend except for right here. So you're starting to get a little bit of divergence. That being said, the price has to lead. And even with that divergence, I'm still skeptical about this chart. And I would just view this as underside here. I'd very much view this as underside action. That's kind of how I digest that chart. Talked about Caspa. Okay, I'll get to you, Trans. Give me a second, brother Todd. A lot of great questions. Silver, sure. Talk about MicroStrategy. We talk about Bitcoin. If we mentioned would I go above 96K? We're talking about Bitcoin, Satoshi. 99K is the first level I would look to take along if we flip 99. Everything here is underside. So not 96. Me personally, I mean, you could play here locally if you want. Pardon me, if you want to use 96K. This is just underside structure, and I'm not going to fight the trend. Have I been following silver? Yeah, I mean, it's super mega strong. That's an official term. I mean, look at that. Gorgeous. Super gorgeous. Weekly chart is bullish. You know, it's one of those things where people can be drawing fibs. They can be doing all sorts of, you can be doing like an extension, low, high, swing low. You can kind of say where you think it might go. But those are just, more for fun. I don't know that it's like super valuable to say now it's going to $80 because I drew a fib extension, right? I just tend to follow the trend. I like the trend. It's incredibly strong. What I do with something like this is I could say, okay, I would look to buy a throwback. I would look to buy a retest of this structure and maybe take like a very, very rough measured move just based on this. The most recent consolidation range and say, for me, 60 would make a little more sense than anything. It's a super bullish chart. I mean, metals are absolutely ripping. And some people want to say, like, your thesis should not be, well, gold and silver are strong, therefore, like, Bitcoin needs to be strong. I mean, it may or may not be. You just got to trade Bitcoin chart in and of itself. All right, Satoshi says, not the Satoshi, but so would you hold a mid-size loss on a leverage position to avoid loss to have added some time? Just face the loss. I always face the loss, man. Like, look, if the reason you entered a trade no longer exists, you now have a reason to exit the trade, right? Like, just take the loss, man. It will free up mental capital, free up trading capital. Solana, a good buy today, wants to know from Virus. Let's take a look at Solana. What do we think about Solana? I don't think so. I mean, if I'm going to buy Solana, at a minimum, I want to see it above 145. I want to see it recapturing this level. A lot of people will look to short if it gets a little bit higher. Maybe play again around this range low here, but I am definitely not buying in this chop range. You need to define your risk. It should be based on price interaction with a key level. You got 145 above, you got 120, 125 below. I hope everybody's doing well, by the way. Just wanted to say thank you for being here. Not sure if I've said that yet. I enjoy doing these streams. I have to save my mojo for Bitcoin Live, and I try to stream once a week, but I'll cancel like if things are going on. So while I'm here, I'm glad you're here, and thanks for being here. Talk about Solana, talk about silver, talk about Ethereum, talk about a lot of stuff. Matej, sure. We'll do a few more. And then I'm going to do some work. Okay. Well, this is technically work too, but I'm going to do some other work. I'm really working hard on videos right now, and I've got a bunch of trades I want to take a look at. Turbo, what's going on with Turbo? So you want to know at what level Turbo would be a good short setup. A little bit higher, man. 033 range. Yeah, a little bit higher. I'd say into that structure would make sense. ETH all-time high is in? Well, I mean, for the cycle, yeah. I think for this cycle, yes. Talked about MicroStrategy already. Cheds, please look at BBIO on daily. A lot. So I'm at the point now where you folks are seeing that, like, I'm answering your questions. So is it BBIO? It's a stock. Okay. I'm answering your questions, so more questions are piling up. I'll get to as many as I can, but it's just me. And we've been going for, 40 minutes already. So I do my best. If I missed your request, I'm sorry. I'll try to get to them next time. Honestly, the early bird gets the worm. What do I think about it on the daily? Yeah, nice little move. This is a beautiful chart. Rising EMA 8. Nice, very, very steady rising trend. When I see something like this, right? I always want to scroll out, see, and I say, oh, interesting. To now I see, right? I could get caught up and think this is blue sky. There's no resistance anywhere. You go to the weekly, boom, massive bounce into 2021 peak. This is a big level. I would be careful here. It definitely has a propensity to pause and stall, especially with this strong an advance into a major level. So now that I see that, I'm actually way more cautious on this than I was previously. I'm not going to overinterpret this doji. We've got 4 hours left in this session. Local momentum, meaning nearby momentum, is quite strong, but I'm going to be on watch for a pause and stall and then a drop and then maybe a retest of support. And that's kind of how I would see it. All right, let's see. So many questions. All right. Let's see. What do we want to look at? There's so many questions, and I'm already getting tired. This is fun. We're at 40 minutes. So basically what I want to say is this. It seems pretty clear to me in the high time frame. Let me settle back in the chair, and we'll riff here a little bit. It seems pretty clear to me in the high time frame the trend has rolled over. We're seeing similar behavior we've seen in prior cycles, loss of MA50. We're seeing, pretty strong downward momentum here on the weekly chart. It does kind of look like, it's headed for the 200 as well at some point. But it looks like we've topped in the weekly. And when you top in the weekly, you top for the cycle, you start to think, what are my targets? Well, I've talked through targets earlier, looking at size of retracements, peak to trough and, peak to trough, other cycles. And then me anticipating kind of less volatility, go a little bit less volatility. I don't think we're going to go 75% or whatever from the top. I think probably the absolute lowest we go, and I put out a video on this, is like around 68% to right around 35K. So that's kind of I think in like the absolute not lowest 35K, it's probably going to end up being somewhere in this range, 35 to 45K, the absolute bottom on the weekly chart. A lot of pain from here to there. But in the meantime, it's really hard to forecast the exact path of how it might get there. It could go it could come up here. It could just roll down. It could just do all these things. So there still will be trading opportunities in the interim, in the meantime, and I'm going to keep covering them, and you should be looking for them. But I think that's generally my game plan. In the meantime, we're following a consolidation, a consolidation after a breakdown. And we're seeing a consolidation after a breakdown with the momentum, the price needing to regain 99K for any kind of momentum. And for me, again, viewing all this price structure here as underside, as bear consolidation, bear flag breaking down, retest now into an equilibrium. I'm going to need to see 99K flip before, before going long. Joey's asking me about the Bitcoin 1 hour OBV showing a trend break to the upside. I mean, 1 hour is fine. I think, look, what I would do, Joey, if you're really itching to go long, you can use local structure here and you can use 96K. I'm just not going to take a long into this. This is just too many obstacles. There's too much work to get through here. This is clustered resistance on the way down. I'm just going to wait for 99K. If you want to play here, if you want to trade here, go for it. I just think it's much more likely to roll over. Joey, as I said, I talked about it, the video earlier, we're in this tightening range here. Our low or high, our low or high, high or low. We're in this equilibrium now. It's probably going to break down, but you could go for it. Benjamin, what do you think about shorting Farcoin? Yeah, I like it. I actually took a short before I started the video. Maybe it stopped out, but it just bounced big, and I'm like, this is a bounce in a downtrend, and I literally took a short off of this wick. Looks like I'm not stopped out, so my short is in profit now. It's just a downtrend that bounced. When I saw Bitcoin had bounced, I went and checked a couple alts. Look at these nice little green bounces. Set it up for short. So I think if you short, your stop loss shorting here locally, your stop loss should be the high of this candle in that range. So yeah, I think it's reasonable. But back to Bitcoin. Basically what I'm saying is, I think the high time frame top is in for sure. And for me to want to personally take any kind of a long, which would be a counter trend at this point, I'd want to see 99K. If we break 107.5, I'm going to have to rethink everything. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's the level which I think would kind of cleanse or invalidate the loss of the 50, the weekly 50. It would make me rethink these lower targets. But in the interim, just simply put, level to level, I'm just looking at, again, this is all underside. And we're now in an equilibrium. We're in a tightening range. If you want to know what I'm talking about, I have a video on that. The equilibrium, I've tweeted it out. It's in the encyclopedia. So I think this likely is heading, again, short-term back towards 76K, and that's my base case. If we flip 99K, I'll rethink that. But I think this is my game plan that I have, and I'll kind of go from there. So Yeah. I mean, you guys know I'm on Twitter at Big Cheds. I'm super active. You can find me here. I try to respond. I may, probably miss your comment because there's a million of them, and I don't know if someone's a bot or not. I hate the fact they have all the AI bots. Your best shot, really drop me a comment on YouTube. I see those. I'll reply to you there. Of course, Bitcoin Live members reply to me every video. I get to all those messages. I'm a founding analyst. I've been doing this for 8 years at Bitcoin Live, best team in the world. You want to check that out on my YouTube long form interview series. I just did an interview with Trader Main recently. He's very popular. You guys know him, and he's my first return guest. I talked to him 3 years ago. Recently, Jason Pizzino, Fibbo, Chartman Dan. This guy's like one of my mentors. You want to check out Chartman Dan. I have more coming out. I have a secret. I don't want to announce it ahead of time, but I have another interview later this month with someone who's very strong. I bring in really smart people. I talk to them and try to create value. Check out Trading Quotes. I have published 4 books. I make them free in my YouTube. Just publish a new book there. A new video in this playlist. Just have fun. Add some skills. Define your risk. If you're in a trade and it's failing, I would cut it and look for the next best trade. You don't want to hold and let it own you. Level up your skills. Binge watch this playlist. These are 3-minute videos. There's like 200 of them or something. So go ahead and watch this video. And, level up your skills. Help you feel a little bit more comfortable. Check out my books if you want. You can buy them or just get them for free here. I mean, so either way, let me know what you think. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's a pleasure for me to be able to hit a few buttons, come live, talk to 100, 200 of you guys. Not 200 these days, but 100 of you folks just hanging out with me. So thank you so much. I'm going to finish up with Church of 8 Wheels. That's my anthem. That's my favorite dancing song here. And, I'll try to catch you guys next week, either Tuesday or Friday, and we'll go from there. So thank you, everybody, for chilling with me. And let's dance it on the way out.